officers. It takes me 46 years back, maybe before all of you were born. Now, I would like to open the house. You have no doubt, needless to say, you are the members of the most prestigious civil service of the country, and you have a huge responsibility ahead. Because when I deliver a talk, thereafter matter concludes. I don't wish to conclude that. Instead, I would like to throw the house open for you all people to ask questions, your curiosity, your observations, if you have, and I'm sure you should be having in your minds. That would be perhaps far more meaningful. Yes, let's begin. Feel free. I think, don't think that you are interacting with a governor. You just think you are interacting with one of the elder citizens of this country and maybe a very old colleague of yours. So just relax. You can ask the most absurd questions. Don't think too much about propriety, how the question should be asked, whether the governor would like it or not like it. Just feel at home. All that I want you to feel at home and ask whatever comes to your minds, which you feel that you like me to respond or react.
I wanted to ask a question regarding the Naga peace talks that you were a part of. You have been involved with it as an interlocutor as well as later the governor. So what were the differences in both the posts and the roles and the challenges in both posts?
I think with this, responding to this question, I've tried to address a larger issue which you all must bear in your mind. First and foremost, I think let me stand. I feel more comfortable standing. Why this Naga conflict happened? Why this conflict, not only Naga is a one case, take it as symptomatic or one. There are many. In the entire Northeast, we had a lot of, we used to call it alphabet soup of military, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, every, up to Z and beyond. You had groups, armed groups fighting. Why? Actually, if you look at this question, then you get the answer to what actually the Naga case was. Because many times what happens, we address the issue on the symptom. Naga said, we are not Indians. And so we will not be with India, we will fight, we will be independent. But so did others also. Alpha said in Assam, Bodo said in Assam, some elements in Tripura said, Manipur said, all over. The narrative that we are not Indian, how did this narrative come? Because if you fight the symptom, you only get a temporary reprieve. You don't get the solution. The problem, the core problem that we faced, which means government of India, or let us say India faced, because this is not the problem only of the government, it is the problem of the people. Northeast is a large area. If you go by 2011 census, it's about 45 million people. Their livelihood, their progress. The narrative, each one of them, they started saying, we are not Indian. Be it Assam, be it Manipur, be it Nagaland, be it Tripura. And at some level, in the government of India, we accepted that yes, perhaps they are not Indians and we need to bring them sensitively to us. And a narrative was built by the British, which we continued following that narrative. Thanks to the British rule that they became part of it. That is how the whole thing built. That is not the truth. If you look at, I take you slightly behind, because this question is important even in other parts, the way you look at your country. The answer to the question is the way you look at your country. Before the British took over Bengal, and they took over Bengal in 1757 after the Battle of Plassey, when Robert Clive defeated Siraj-ud-Dowlah. What they did, they disconnected the entire northeast from the rest of the country. Prior to that, in the decade of 1760, the people from the northeast and the rest of the country, there used to be regular interaction, movement. Movement for trade, movement for studies. People used to come, movement for pilgrimage. People used to travel from northeast, to Rameswaram. There is, if those of you who are a bit familiar with Assam or those who are going to Assam, you should know that in Assam in the 15th, 16th century, there was a great person called Sankardev. He is called Mahapurush Sankardev. He lived for 119 years, by the way. 119 years and lived a healthy life. Born in 1449 and died in 1568. At the age of 30, he left Kamrup and he came to Rameswaram. He studied, it was a seat of learning. Then he came to Kanchipuram, he studied. Then he went to Kashi, he studied. He stayed at Kashi for nearly 12 years. Then he went back to Kamrup again and he established a chain of Vaishnavite monastery called Satra, which you find it all over Assam. Satra monastery, this is the Vaishnavite monastery. On reaching Kamrup, the first poem that he composed was Dhanya Dhanya Bharat Bhumi. Now, this is just one illustration. A lot, you can find people in Assam, if you go 400, 500 years back, the people migrated from some other part of the country. Mostly, you have a large number of people going from Kannauj who are there. Most of the Misras, you have many scholars, many great people, Misras and all, they are from Kannauj. They went there about 400 years back. There used to be a regular interaction. They were politically different. They were under different rulers, different kings and all that. But socially and culturally, people were mixing, moving, without any restriction, this is how this country, Bharat, is very interesting. Article 1 of the Indian Constitution says, India, that is Bharat. And India is introduced through Bharat. And so it is important that all of you must have a good idea of what Bharat is, and that gives you the answer to the question. Now, the British, when they disconnected, after this taking over of Bengal, the entire movement stopped. And in the subsequent centuries, people started becoming strange here. Not only that, the British did something worse. Later, first is they segregated the northeast from the rest of the country. In 1873, they brought a regulation called Bengal Eastern Frontier Regulation 1873, which is popularly called Inner Line Permit. Now, if you guys have to go to Nagaland, if you have to go to Mizoram, you have to go to Arunachal Pradesh, you will be needing If unless you are an officer there, somebody will take it easier. But legally speaking, every Indian, for going to those states, you need a permit called inner line permit. This was introduced in 1873. Now, what was the background of that? The background was that British, under the India Charter Act of 1813, India Charter Act of 1813, the British Parliament had made a law. One of the provisions in that law, the mandates of the company and the British government in India, what they will do was, one of the responsibility or mandate was religious and moral redemption of India. That is evangelization of India. It was an act of British Parliament. Under this, they brought a host of missionaries to India. And in 1868, because Assam Northeast was annexed by the British in 1824, after the Battle of Yandabu, with the Burmese king they had fought. And then they started consolidating when they got tea and all that, developed them their interest. 1868, one Reverend Clark from American Baptist, he came to Sivsagar. Sivsagar is a place in Arunachal. Jorhat Sivsagar, they had a missionary. He wrote a letter to the governor, Bengal, and the letter is very interesting. He wrote a letter, the letter is of 1871, that every day when I wake up in the morning and look at the hills, because Jorhat is at the foothill, then you have the Naga hills. When I wake up in the morning, my heart pains, because there are a lot of people above waiting for the gospel, but I am not able to go there. Because whenever they tried to go, there was a stiff resistance by the people. People didn't allow them. And it was in that backdrop that in 1873 they issued this Bengal Eastern Frontier Regulation 1873, where they completely prohibited the interaction of the people from the plains to the hills. Before that, historically, plenty of evidence that whenever the people of the hills and the plains, they had a very symbiotic relation, very close relation. Used to have trade relations, used to have marriage relations. Whenever the local kings or rulers in the plain will fight, and the weaker one will run to the hills and take shelter with one of the kings in the hills. They married there, many of them. When the Mughals invaded Assam, Ahoms were invaded, where they fought. Over 100,000 hill people who you can call Nagas, they came and fought along with the home army against the invasion of Mughals. So they had a very close relation. But 1873, they blocked it. And the argument that they gave was, plain people, you are our subject. There are savages in the hills. If you go, you come in the harm's way, protecting you is our responsibility. So don't go. But strangely enough, in the regulation they also mentioned that even those who go with permit, they shall not be permitted to carry images or idols of any Hindu god. It was forbidden. So what happened is that whole area was through the backup of military, British military and missionaries. They went to the hills, the same in the Naga hills, Mizo hills, Lushai hills was called, it was not Mizo. Mizoram is a name, they got it much later. But it was to be called Lushai hills. So that is there. And over the period they tried to create in the mind that you are different. And when the national freedom movement started gaining momentum, they first inner line permit invoking, they did not allow the freedom movement to reach the hills. So national freedom movement did not reach the hills. If you ask the people of Nagaland, Arunachal Pradesh, Mizoram, they have not participated directly in the freedom movement. Of course, they did subsequently, but They were restricted. They were not allowed to go. And then they came up with the idea of a Crown's colony, that should British have to leave India, the northeast of India and upland of Burma are joining. They will form a Crown's colony. That will be with the British. That was the plan on which they started working from 1930 onwards. And by the time when they were leaving, they did a lot of damage by creating. They, in fact, all kinds of narrative they created. When the Simon Commission, which was constituted for further devolution of power to the local natives, they drafted the memorandum. It was the British civil servant who drafted the memorandum, and they made some Naga people to go and submit it to the commission. In that they say, look, we are different, we don't want to be part of this reform, because we are different because in the plains there are people, if we mix with them, some of them will not let us eat beef and some of them will not let us eat pork. No, these are a staple of the people, they have to eat. No, this kind of. So the difference that was created in the people, the northeast as a reason, and between the hill people and the rest was a colonial legacy. And this colonial legacy was accepted by the government of India. The knowledge of government of India was limited, of the northeast region, was limited to the knowledge bequeathed by the British administrators. This is what they are. In fact, if you look at the correspondence of 1950s between the Prime Minister and the Chief Minister of Assam, you will be shocked. The communication says, the Prime Minister says, advises the Chief Minister, you must be slow, they are different people, they are not us, we need to assimilate them with sensitivity. Now, all this was the mind that they are different. They are different, and so we need to integrate them, assimilate them, and make them Indian. Now, this is the background. I am telling you how the whole thing, and this is the narrative which they built. And in all the narrative, they will quote some British writer, some British civil servant, some British anthropologist. Look, this is what the man says, we are different. Actually, and the standard text of history, if you call it, which anybody will tell you. When in 1990, I was given the responsibility to understand and deal with some of the issues of the region. I was new. I went to Guwahati. University. I talked to people, advise me some books to read. I also asked some senior civil servants, advisors. Everybody without fail said, read the book of Edward Gate. Edward Gate was a civil servant, ICS officer. History of Assam. And I read it. And Gate was honest enough to record in the preface of the book that he understood the region through his head clerk, Gopal Das Barua, who told him, and he narrated, jotted down. He wrote in the 3 months leave that they used to go to get during those days, when they used to go home, he wrote the book. This Anglophilia, that it is a book written by the British, so it has to be a book which is definitive. And that is narrative which perpetuates it. And this is how we continued looking at not as ours, as us, but different. So our responses also were correspondingly to appeasement, to be happy. In fact, one of the first things that struck me, as I said, in 1990s, 90 onward when I started visiting, I usually had a tendency to meet and live with the people. In my job, I was in IB, Intelligence Bureau. I won't use the word never, but seldom stayed in a circuit house, government house. I used to develop some friendship with some people and used to live in their houses. That gives a far more insight into it. I visited, there is, if some of you are familiar, if not, you will get familiar in your due course. There is an Idu Mismi tribe in Arunachal Pradesh, Dibang Valley. When I was there staying with a friend, I found all these people there, the male have tuft, chutiya. I was curious. I say, what is this? They told me, Rukmini was from here. Rukmini was our daughter. She was in love with Sri Krishna. Her brother Rukmini wanted to marry her off to somebody. Rukmini informed Krishna. Krishna came, fought Rukmini, wanted to kill him. At that time, sister sought the pranadhan. Don't kill my brother. So, Krishna, with his Sudarshan Chakra, shaved off his head, left the tuft. Now, where from this folk tale came there? I want to know. And when did it go there? It must have gone long before the British. In our narrative, they are primitive tribes. I went in a state with some Karvi friends. Karvi is another tribe. I hear them a story telling the story of Ramayana in their own way, some variations. Now, where did the story go? When I started looking at the society, I found that where are we? Where are we heading? So I was clear in my mind that we were going a wrong way. By accepting the fact, in somewhere in the back of our mind, that there are people who are different, they became part of us thanks to the British. This was a wrong narrative. It had to be corrected. So when I was given in 2014, Prime Minister gave me the responsibility of Naga. I was at the time chairman of Joint Intelligence Committee, which coordinates and oversees all the intelligence agencies in the country. We have all central federal agencies, we have nearly 24. The first thing I did was, I told the Naga friends earlier that they had created narrative. Imagine 1997 the talk began. They said part of the initial agreement, talk will be held in a third country, not in India, not in Nagaland. And for all these 17, 18 years, we kept meeting them, all the conceivable beautiful places in the world. Be it Hague, be it Zurich, be it Amsterdam, be it Rio de Janeiro, Osaka, Tokyo, Manila, Bangkok, you name a place, all around. They were globe-trotting. Government of India expense. I told the gentleman who was in charge, who was leading the organization, they are in charge of the organization, told them, look, are you serious? He said, yes, we are serious. If you are serious, you will be here. We will not be top meeting. Because when you are meeting in a foreign country, you can't meet so often. It has to be once in 3, 4, 5 months. I said, this narrative has to break. The talk has to be held here. I told them that, look, if you are not serious, let us call it an end. We will break the talk, you go to jungles. We are not interested. Because it has the show, the drama has gone on for 19 years, we don't wish to continue it more, unless you are serious. If you are serious, I am giving you a place in Delhi. The government of India gave a house, we placed them in Delhi, and began the talk. First, we brought them down to our land, and talk began in Delhi. And then, initially they had created a myth. If you only, there are so many groups, so many armed groups. They said, if you talk to, well, they are the largest. And government of India, by the logic of gun, they said, since there are a larger number of guns, we will own it. And they said, if you talk to anybody else, we will break the talk. Either you talk to us, or if you talk to anyone, no. And government, they blackmailed government. No, this is not acceptable. I brought the rest, put them in a separate group, what they call NNPG, the Naga National People's Group, all kinds of names they keep giving, you know. As for me, as far as I am concerned, they all came under one group, and they also came on board. I told them that, look, first and foremost, you have to accept you are a part of India, Nagaland is a part of India, and solution will be within Indian Constitution. If needed, we can think of amending the Constitution, giving you something more, some special, but this narrative that it is not a part of India is not acceptable. And we gave them a clear message. In fact, one of the first things after assuming the responsibility of interlocutor which I did was, there is a village called Konoma, and Naga movement, anyone who has tracked, the father of Naga insurgency, Agent Fizo. It is Fizo's village. It's a very beautiful village, you should visit. It's a green village, they are doing wonderful work in preserving the ecology of the area. So in that village there was a public function and I was invited. I attended. It was 10,000 people. I told them that, look, there are two realities which we must accept. One reality government of India must accept, and that is Nagas have to be won over as ours with love and affection, not by military force. Military is not the solution, fine. And the second reality which Nagas must accept, you are a part of us, you cannot drive India out of Nagaland, forget about it, for 100,000 of years. Nagas, they love clarity. You tell them plainly, this is not acceptable. They will be angry, but they will come out. They don't like, they're getting betrayed, you tell them something, play a game, no. They were unhappy, but they came out. Yes. You were saying, we have not been able to, how can we do that? Break away from it. Finally they came around, they brought the tribal, we were just talking to the armed people, thinking that talking to the armed people will bring solution. How can it? Naga society is a tribal society, well organized. The tribal bodies are very powerful. Village chief is the law. Well, when the village chief what says is the law. Forget about, a state government has no say in their matters. We brought them around and finally they agreed. Yes, settlement is within Indian Union. There is no question about it. Now, what I am saying is, and then the people, I started telling, look, what is the difference? We have been together for a long time. Just short duration of about 100 and odd years is not enough to keep us separate. So narrative. The way we look at our country, our strength of this country is our cultural connectivity. In many ways, I tell you, you go to any part of the country, go to Kanyakumari, go to Kashmir, go to Kamrup, you draw any of the sketches from any of your mythologies.